Welcome to the Pop Culture Cosmos.
And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. 10 years and going strong. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the Pop Culture Cosmos. Inside sports, fantasy football, Lakers fast break, and also, of course, Lakers latest. So many things that we do, the state of pro wrestling and more. Go ahead and make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to get notified when the latest Pop Culture Cosmos comes right to you. Don't forget popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. So many people are subscribing to it. I can't believe it. Even to this day, 10 years later, people are subscribing to popculturecosmos.wordpress.com free of charge to check out what we're doing there. Plus, also as well, thank you so much over the past 10 years to so many great radio stations, Sword Radio, so many great stations that have been out there for us for the past 10 years. Over 100 radio stations I've actually submitted this show to over the past 10 years, and I'm so grateful to each and every one of them. And if you are listening and showcasing this to your audience out there on the radio waves, cannot thank you enough for supporting that radio station and, of course, us as well at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos, especially with 10 years going on, without a good friend indeed. I have two, not one, but two good friends for you this right now. First off, it is my good friend. You got to go ahead and check him out today at the Happy Hoarder, Humanican Media, and so much more. The Plucky Gamer. My gosh, he does so much. And over the years, I still can't believe he said yes. I said, hey, we're doing this video game show now, but we're just veering off into pop culture all the time. Why don't we just do like a pop culture weekly show? How does that sound? And sucker born every minute. It is a good friend indeed. It is, of course, the man, the myth, the legend. It is Josh Pederson. What's up, man?
Well, when you asked me if I wanted to do a pop culture show or a show that focused on the Kardashians, I had to turn the other one down. I'm sorry, man.
Okay, fair enough. You had either or, and you just chose the pop.
I chose the better of the two options, man.
Well, maybe we would have a few more views. I mean, we've got over closing in on a 700,000 between the downloads, audio and video. So not too shabby in the 10 years. So maybe we would have done a couple million more with just saying Kardashian on it. The pop culture Kardashian. How about that? There you go, indeed. But great to have you here, my friend. And first off, the biggest thank you of all is to you for putting up with me all these nights, all these mornings, all these days that we've gone through this over the past 10 years. It has been an incredible ride. You and I have ridden this out together as the world of pop culture, sharing our thoughts and our feelings on the world of pop culture for 10 straight years. There's never been a missed episode of Pop Culture Cosmos in 520 weeks, and a lot of that credit has to go to you, my friend.
Heck yeah. Well, you're the one that presses the record button, man. I just talk.
And talk you do, my friend. And it's been a great ride indeed, and I'm hoping for many more years to come with you by my side. No matter how much I despise getting up at Monday morning at 7 a.m., unless I'm taking my wife to work, and then it's kind of cool. It's all right, but it times out. But when it's not, and she has the day off, I'm like, gotta talk about pop culture at 7 o'clock in the morning. All right. But I love it. And once we get into it, it's a great conversation. And, people ask me why today do I still do the show, Pop Culture Cosmos? And I said, it's still my favorite show. More than any other shows I do. I'm not going to be dishonest with you because it's the great conversations I have. And not only with Josh each and every Monday, the great conversations, just keeping in touch with him each and every week, but also as well, a good man indeed. He is the host of the PCC Multiverse on Friday, and he is here with us today for they say it's the second time ever they've been together. I just, again, completely, again, I've hosted 3,000 podcasts. Don't blame me. Don't at me. It is, of course, a good man indeed. It is the guru of pop culture himself. It is TJ Johnson. What's up, man?
Apparently, I thought today was Friday, so somehow I landed on this show. I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm a few days A few days early. Sorry about that.
You triggered the multiverse, man. Now everyone you know is not gonna know you anymore because of
My
Doctor
goodness.
Strange.
Here we go. And then Dr. Doom's going to tell me I'm living a life that's not mine. So,
TJ, brand new day coming soon.
There you go, indeed. Well, I will tell again this story in regards to the PCC Multiverse. The Pop Culture Cosmos had gone on for quite a spell. In fact, almost a year. TJ and I will be celebrating 500 episodes here coming up here in a little bit, as far as that's concerned, on the PCC Multiverse. So, with that said, I was approached by our good friend Josh, Pederson. As far as Mr. Josh Pederson is concerned, I was actually approached by my good friend Mr. Rob McCallum. Rob McCallum, a documentary filmmaker. He's done so many films, a lot of which we reviewed on this show and on popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. And he approached me. He said, "You guys are doing such a great job, you and Josh, on Mondays. How about doing a show on Friday?" And I said, "What? Twice a week?" Okay, sounds good. I'm all in. And almost 500 episodes, almost 500 weeks later on that one as well. So TJ has picked up the mantle. And again, I want to give a big shout out, as I did before, for our recent 500 anniversary. Gave a shout out to Melinda Barkhouse Ross. Gave a shout out to Robbie Ross. Gave a shout out to Jamie Monroy. Gave a shout out to so many of the people that have been greatly part of our show, and I just cannot thank you enough for everyone who's taken the time out of the day. All the guests that we've had: Douglas Hoibu, Retro City Games, Hamanish Goel, just so many names. I want to go Jessica Boggs, who came on every week with the TV updates that she used to give us before she went to law school. So many great conversations. Jeff Sloboda, just so many great conversations, and I cannot thank you enough for being a part of everything that we do right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But let's get into it, guys. With that, of course, it is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to mention, of course, it would be pop culture if we didn't talk Spider-Man, guys. So I'm going to start with you first, Josh. This past weekend, I also want to go ahead and mention that Spider-Man Brand New Day has reached the $2 billion plateau, essentially before the month of August is over. It is right now one of the only 8 movies ever to do so. It is now sitting just behind Infinity War and Episode 7, The Force Awakens. How far up the food chain do you see it going with the success of Spider-Man Brand New Day?
I don't know, man. I'm looking at like 2.5 right now. You know, it's possible that if all the characters were blue, it would have made a little bit more money, but I think it might stop at 2.5.
That would put it third all time, and that would be a unique success for Sony. I mean, Sony's already making hand over fist on this movie. It's already reached profitability status. TJ, you are Spider-Man. You and Josh are Spider-Man experts as far as it's concerned. Huge into the Spider-Man motif at all. Your thoughts on Spider-Man Brand New Day reaching that tremendous plateau of $2 billion?
I think that's nothing to shake a stick at. Absolutely, it's an incredible feat, and I actually completely agree with Josh. I was thinking, as you were asking that question, I was thinking about 2.5, and he turned around and said it. So clearly, we've done this before. We're here. I think the fun thing about this is that he didn't need 20 Avengers to come and do 2 point blah 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 billion dollars in sales. He just needed, a couple throwaways in there. He needed some villains and some other. But I think there's a bigger story here. There's actually multiple bigger stories. The first bigger story is that everybody says that there's superhero fatigue. And I've been very, very staunch in saying there's not superhero fatigue. There's good storytelling fatigue. And if there's not a good enough story, there's not a good enough reason to get me out of my seat to go into a movie theater to see a movie, I'm not going to do it anymore. We're in a different day and age. So when you have a good story that makes sense and it resonates, and Spider-Man is already one of those everyman characters that resonates with everybody. It's a natural fit. So when you have a good enough story, you're gonna sell the money. So the movies aren't dead, as everybody likes to keep pointing out. Theaters aren't gonna die, but people are being much more conscientious about what they're spending their hard-earned money on seeing. So I think it's a great indication for Spider-Man and how strong of a character and IP it is. I think it's a great indication that superhero movies are not dead. And I think it's a great indication that people are willing to spend money on things that are quality and that they're actually going to get some enjoyment out of. So I think it's a win-win-win for a lot of different categories. There's some categories I think it's bad for, but we'll touch on that later.
You know,
I am
one
gonna.
thing. Oh,
Yeah, I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, I was going to just real quickly touch on the fact that later on, I do want to talk about the evolvement of movies over the course of the past 10 years and how it was so huge before, and it's taking a long time to get back to that stage now. Go ahead, Josh. My apologies.
I was just going to throw in there too, like with Spider-Man, like we saw how the last movie ended, right? And it was in a spot where like you didn't need to watch 20 other movies to know what was happening in this movie, right? He was like he had cut ties to the entire MCU. So you just go in there and watch, kick your feet up and watch this movie. What I think Avengers Doomsday is going to suffer from is going to be all these people going, oh no, do I go see it right away, or do I sit back and watch all 20 something whatever pieces of garbage that came out
Well,
this year from Marvel?
well,
You
that's
know,
why
like
Kevin Feige has
He put out
provided
that
you with
list.
homework.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
has
he did. He
provided
put
you
out
with
a list.
homework of a
I
list
didn't
of
even see
15
it. Where did you get
films.
this?
Yeah.
I'll send
13
it to you
essential
here.
titles.
Yeah, I'll send it to you here in a second. By the way, big shout out also as well. I want to make sure that TJ's predecessor before, as far as Melinda Barkhouse Ross, our Marcus De La Garza gets a big shout out as well. He was there for one of our epic moments on our show when Josh didn't remember the last Skywalker. He will always live in infamy on that one. But I did want to go ahead and mention, Josh, that yes, it is a homework assignment that you have, and that, like you said, feels like it's work. And if you're asking the audience to feel like it's worth work, I do not think, and I'll bring it back to you in a second, TJ, that the work required is going to tire people and fatigue people out as far as being up for a Avengers Doomsday, and I just do not see it achieving the same level of success we're seeing from Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Well, I think we got to be very, very careful. You know, it's not homework. It's essential viewing if you want to. You could go into the Avengers Doomsday and try to enjoy the movie for what it is. I think I don't know if I'd say it's homework. It's one of those, you know, if you want to be 100% up to date, then you know you want to at least watch these couple, you know, these films and that way you know exactly what's going on. But when we say homework, that has such a especially with the start of school, that has such a negative connotation. I don't want to say homework. I just want to say if you like, you can watch these, and then you'll feel better about going into Doomsday. Um, but in all seriousness, I think that Doomsday is primed to really let Marvel down because there's so much that's going into it, and there's so much that's kind of riding on it. This is kind of the big farewell to the Fox of the X-Men. It's the big farewell to these other universes of heroes that we've grown up with and that we've come to love over the last 20, 25, you know, blah, 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 blah years at this point with the X-Men and, you know, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and possibly the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and, you know, possibly the last run of Blade. However they can fit, they're going to fit as many people into this as possible to kind of do a hard reset of everything. So the problem is, to your point, people are going to feel like they have to do homework in order to watch this movie, as opposed to, as Josh mentioned, with Spider-Man, it was a clean slate. You could wipe it and just come into that movie and enjoy that movie for what it was. Now, granted, there were a lot of things that happened in that movie that were payoffs from the previous movie, so having some knowledge of those would have helped. But you're also talking about Spider-Man. Everybody sees Spider-Man clearly at 2 blah 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 $billion. Everybody seems to love Spider-Man. So I think that Avengers Doomsday is going to still do very, very well. And I think it's still going to be a huge, you know, moment in pop culture. However, I don't think it's going to reach the heights of the Endgame, and I don't see it reaching $2.5 billion like we can see Spider-Man potentially do before the end of this month.
Feel the same way, my friend, before we get into, of course, what's going on with D23. Do you feel the same way? Because again, Disney, Marvel, and the whole nine yards was out on display this past weekend. But Kevin Feige, as I'm going to send to you now the list, again, requiring all that is kind of interesting that you're asking for that. Starting with a rerunning in theaters next month of Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, I don't know what to think because, like, I'm no fan of like this last section of Marvel movies that have come out, right? Like, I love the Spider-Man, but like all the shows, like, I didn't watch a lot because I just don't have time to sit down and watch that many things, man. And then like luckily, a lot of the things on this list I've already seen, so I don't feel the need to go back and like brush up on it. But yeah, I mean, as TJ was saying, there's the goodbye, right, to the Spider-Man and the X-Men movies, the Fox universe, Sony universe. But it's ironically like Marvel put themselves in a situation where that was necessary, right? Like this is going to be great and I'm excited for it, but also like they could have kind of probably stretched this out a little bit more had they not kind of dropped the ball on this last phase of Marvel stuff. So I hope it does well. I hope, I see it definitely getting close to $2 billion, but will it go over? I don't know. It's hard to say at this point in time because I don't know like how being required to watch things is going to affect audiences. It's not as easy to view as Spider-Man is.
Well, be prepared to do some homework, my friend. Once again, I know my girls are already on it, and they have to go ahead and finish up a little bit of the stuff that's on there. I think a little bit of Loki and the X-Men movies that are listed in there before they go ahead and finish everything up before we get into Avengers Doomsday. And God forbid I will be I will fail my homework assignment if I have to rewatch X-Men 2 again. So I'll just leave it at that. But with that said, speaking of the X-Men, the next phase, no, that's not the name of the new title, but the next phase of X-Men were on display, TJ, at D23. Let's get into D23 right now. The major announcements as far as, basically some of the structuring of the movies that are coming up from Star Wars, Pixar, Marvel, et cetera, the new rides that are coming, the land of Villains Land. I would have said the land of villains, but they wanted to keep that villains land. You have to say land at the end as far as what's upcoming. Two new rides coming up for us here on the West Coast for Disneyland as far as the Avengers is concerned. So that's a great sign there. A lot of the Avengers will be re-recording or recording some stuff specifically for those rides, which is interesting to see. Those that I guess didn't make the cut in Doomsday, but maybe we'll make the cut in Secret Wars. But your thoughts, though, first off, on the X-Men that were put out front and center. Adam Driver, who had continually denied reports on characters he's passed over in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is Mr. Sinister in this whole equation. And then also as well, Indy Navarrete, the superstar of the summer of session. Disney loves her so much because so much because she is now playing Rogue among other new cast members that were announced at D23.
I think it's going to be a very interesting time for the MCU. They are very clearly leaning into the mutant saga, as they've kind of already alluded to, or I shouldn't say kind of, they've alluded to. They've very deliberately told us about the mutant saga is next, and now we have our young cast of X-Men with Sadie Sink, Kit Connor, Maya Boyd, India Navarrete, as you mentioned, Christopher Abbott, Samara Weaving. Samara Weaving? Is that any relation to Hugo Weaving by chance?
Yeah, that's his niece.
That's cool. That's
She was
really
in
cool.
did you see the Ready or Not movies?
I did not.
Oh, she was
No.
amazing in those movies. If you get a chance, watch them. But I think she's gonna do amazing in that role.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm already a huge fan of Emma Frost. She's already got the look. She's a beautiful actor. So I'm excited to see it. But I think the fun thing about all of this is that they've made it very, very clear that they're going into the mutant saga, if you will, and that they did not cast Wolverine. And I think that's great because we have a Wolverine problem. And it's funny because my wife and I, for whatever reason, we've been looking at all these old X-Men movies, and we just watched Wolverine, so Wolverine 2, I guess. We watched that, then we watched Days of Future Past, and it goes right after Wolverine 2, and then she just wanted to watch the original X-Men. So we kind of been doing our homework without really trying to do our homework. And it got me thinking, even looking back at the very beginning of the X-Men universe, they were very clearly heavily focused on Wolverine. So much so that everything plot wise is Wolverine. Everything, storylines that didn't have Wolverine as a headline, period, were now focused on Wolverine. They made it very clear that Hugh Jackman was the face of that franchise. And as much as I love my 6 foot plus Aussie named Hugh Jackman doing Wolverine. That's not what the X-Men was about. The X-Men wasn't simply about Wolverine. It was about a group of mutants, a group of people who together formed a bigger collective. So I'm excited that they're pulling away from just this Wolverine centric thing. And even when the original X-Men were a thing in the comic books, they didn't have Wolverine. Wolverine came along later. So I'm excited that they're kind of sticking to that. I'm excited that they're giving these young guns a chance to grow into these roles, just like they're doing with the young Black Panthers. So this is going to be a very, very interesting and very exciting time for Marvel. And because it's so big and the mutants go so, they're going to go so hard with these mutants, I think it's important that they kind of lock them in or kind of get them young and let them have time to really grow into these roles.
Well, with that said, again, there was much more announced at D23, including, of course, what's going on with a new Monsters Inc. ride as well. Of course, getting it back into the movies. You've got what's upcoming with, of course, Incredibles 3. You've got Princess Diaries 3. You've got the live action Tangled. You've got Coco 2. He's a teenager now, everyone. Just, ready for that one. He's a teenager. They're all grown up on that one. Zootopia 3. Man. Shocker that they're making another one of that, man. I'm just so surprised on that one. Josh, again, a great showing at D23, but was there anything outstanding that you were really focused on? Of course, they showed Doomsday and a little bit from that, the latest clip from Doomsday featuring, of course, Dr. Doom and the Sentinels. Your thoughts on D23 as a whole? Again, a great celebration. It was nearby you back in the day, so it's something you're very familiar with as far as seeing what's going on down there in Orange County.
Yeah, so I will say one thing I'm super stoked about, man, is the Bluey movie. Can't wait.
I am not going to underestimate. No, I am not going to underestimate the Bluey movie. Our sarcasm might be thick on this one, guys, but you know what? I think it's going to make a ton of money. It's been a saving grace for Disney Plus. It's been a saving grace for Disney Plus over the years, Josh.
Yeah. No, I'm not even being sarcastic. Like that I don't know if y'all have ever like indulged in that show at all. Like my kids love it, and I sit there watching. It's just like got this amazing soundtrack, and you watch these like two dogs be parents. You're like, man, I wish that I was just not so tired all the time and I could do that, But no, that's definitely gonna make a lot of money. What I really did enjoy, like the emphasis on Kingdom Hearts, though. I mean, that's Kingdom Hearts has always kind of been like the redheaded stepchild of Disney, right? Like they know that it exists, but they never want to talk about it. But now it seems like they're realizing the monetary value of the Kingdom Hearts IP, and they're like, oh, okay, maybe we should start showing this thing some love. And they had the Coco trailer with Sora in it, and they're asking the head of animation, is there gonna be a Kingdom Hearts movie? So it sounds like they're finally starting to like realize how much people like this franchise and how much, like, I don't want to say how much money they can make off of it, but like how they can use it to reach new audiences that don't normally watch, your typical Disney fanfare.
And Star Wars Starfighter, actually, it was a very much like Comic-Con, a very much Ryan Gosling-centric theme, as far as announcements or updates, because of, if you like Ryan Gosling, Disney now loves Ryan Gosling, TJ, because he's coming up next year in Star Wars Starfighter, and then the next year after that in Ghost Rider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you were missing some Ryan Gosling, you will not be missing Ryan Gosling much longer. I assure you, you will have your fill and then some.
And then some, indeed. Also, some of the major announcements on the rides. Josh, TJ. I mean, TJ, you're probably the closest one to Disney World and Disneyland at this point in time, or Disneyland at this point in time. I did want to note that the updates as far as whether it's Tomorrowland going in Disneyland, as far as a reimagining of it, new Cars themed rides at Walt Disney World, Epcot Center, I think is also being reimagined as well. That's again a big undertaking from the company, but I think Disney realizes, that's their bread and butter every day is the theme parks around the world that they have. And if they don't keep updating them and keeping them fresh, it's just like here in Vegas on the Strip. If you don't keep updating the hotels, the people will stop coming. They'll start getting bored and they'll start losing interest. So again, Disneyland, Disney World, Disneyland's all over the world. talking about updates and major changes, I'm not surprised at all, TJ, because again, that's a core part of their revenue and audience, what goes into those theme parks.
Well, I think even with those theme parks, I think the important thing that you remember is that they have to keep making it fresh because they want people to go spend their money there, right? As a father to, a 15-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. My 15-year-old will probably get something out of going to Disney. She hasn't aged out of that aspect. She would get something out of going to Disney. But my 6 and my 4-year-old, while it would be fun, it wouldn't be like, oh my God, I have to go to Disney because they're
I
six
love
and
Disney
four.
World. Absolutely love Disney World.
No
I could
doubt,
just
no
spend
doubt.
weeks there.
My point is that I don't care. I don't have to go to Disney World. I would. If you cannot, Gerald, you cannot convince me, and especially with the summer that we've had this year, to take my big butt and go sit out there in 100-degree weather to go get into a ride that's going to be 2 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. But I've had to wait an hour and 15 minutes just to stay in that line for. You
I
can't
love
convince me
Rise
to
of the
do it.
Resistance. It's
You
so
can't. You can't.
I love
Whatever.
Rise
I
of the
hear you.
Resistance, man.
I
I love
understand.
it.
I get it. I get it. And I love that you love that. You know who else loves that? Disney loves that. You love that. I don't. I do not care to do that. With that being said, they have to find ways to even get the person like me who has zero desire to go stand out there in an hour and a half line to go for a 20-second ride to find a reason to go there. And introducing other things, introducing other aspects, introducing the last star, whatever you said, ride, introducing Wakanda, introducing Marvel, and putting stuff in there that's gonna make me want to go. The only thing, Gerald, the only thing I would have been interested in going for was anything Tron related. If it's related to Tron, I would absolutely enjoy that
They have a
aspect.
light
But that is
cycle.
it. That is
Have you
it.
have you tried the light cycle ride at
I haven't
Disney
tried
World?
any, Gerald. I haven't been to Disney World. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
But
Maybe
they
you missed
have a
that
light
part.
cycle. They have a light cycle ride at.
It
And
is
that is
pretty cool.
amazing. That would be the only thing that I am like, oh my God, I have to do. But that's one ride. You know how much it would cost for my family of 5 to go to Disney World, Gerald?
I've experienced that, DJ. Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do. I
Okay.
just got shown
Okay.
a 2020 photo of all 5 of us, my family members at Universal. So yes, I do remember my expenditures and bank account even
Mm,
then. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, the 12,
That
12
was
grand would be.
the estimate I got from a travel agent.
Oh,
What was
jeez.
the estimate? How much was it?
12,000 for me and my kids
Smoking.
and my
Is
wife.
land
Yeah.
or land or world?
Disney World.
Okay, all right. Land, it might be
See,
slightly lower.
it's
Yeah.
this is what I'm telling you. Like you cannot convince me. How many kids do you have, Josh?
I have 5 kids.
Oh, heck no. Well,
Yeah.
one, God bless you. Two, you can't convince me. You cannot convince me that me at the tender age of 41 with these kids and this economy is willing to say, I'm about to go drop 12 G's to go walk around for hours in the heat to get on these. No. They have to continue to do whatever they can to get people in there because you're going to have people like me that are just, you're going to have a really hard time convincing me. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah. I get it, man. I mean, it's the same thing like when I go to theme parks, even like out here in Texas, right? Like I can't enjoy anything. I don't pay attention to things because I'm trying to make sure my kids don't bolt off in different directions. Or I mean, I could go to Disneyland. There could be a roller coaster coming out of the backside of a giant Iron Man suit, and I probably wouldn't even notice it because I'm trying to follow my kids around, you know?
Yeah, squirrel. Like I gotta do this the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, again, if you are looking forward to some major upgrades and improvements at Disney World or Disneylands around the world, because TJ isn't, please check it out because over the next couple of years, you'll be seeing that in place. But the movies, though, TJ and Josh are in agreement on that they do want to go ahead and check out. And there's a future setup again. TJ, in the year 2028, they are starting to go ahead and ramp up again. Marvel is with 3 movies in 2028, if I'm not mistaken. Are they falling into those same bad habits once again
man.
before we go ahead and
I think this is the problem when you have this is the problem when you have the success of Spider-Man Brand New Day, and this is kind of a bigger overarching thing is that they're like, oh, the superhero fatigue is not really a thing, and it's not. But the problem becomes now you're starting to fall back into the same traps that you ran into with this whole multiverse saga. You're casting this huge net, and you're doing a lot of stuff. And we have to get back to the point where quality beats quantity. It cannot be a quantity beating quality thing as it has been so often. That's why we're all ticked off about a lot of some of the shows. I know Josh didn't have a chance to watch some of those shows, and I get it. But a lot of those shows that got put on and people did or didn't watch and whatever the case may be, and they've been accepted for seasons, and then all of a sudden they're gone. Like they spread their net so far, they put out so much content so quickly that it became oversaturated. And people, once they see how much stuff is out there and how much homework they have just to watch Avengers Doomsday, you're gonna lose interest and you're gonna turn people off from stuff like that. So I think they have to be very, very big on kind of kind of putting this back into the scope of let's just make sure we put out a good story. Let's put out a good story. Let's make sure that it makes sense. Let's get back to having an overarching theme and make sure that each movie ties into that overarching theme if you want, but can still be its own movie in and of itself. Like granted, you have your teasers that Gerald has lamented how terrible they've been as of late. So you have your teasers that actually mean something going into this overarching plan for the whatever the big bad years of that particular phase. But the quality has to be there. And I think Spider-Man has proven that quality trumps quantity, quality storytelling, quality characters, quality, story in general is going to trump anything else. So people are willing to pay the money for the right thing. It's got to be the right thing, man. It's got to be the right thing.
As you said, Josh, the Ubisoft syndrome indeed. And again, with X-Men coming around, like you said, Henry Cavill, we're going to wait and see. No Wolverine has been announced as of yet. But my friend, that was a lot of announcements that were announced at D23. Any thoughts about that before we head to our last part of our 10-year anniversary show?
I'm sorry, the stuff that was announced at D23.
Well, any thoughts on that, or the fact that there was no Wolverine announced, or anything you want to talk about D23 before?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I hope that the X-Men cast gets a chance to, as TJ said, mature into their roles a little bit. I'm really curious how dark they're going to get with the X-Men though, because like some of my favorite comic books were the Ultimate X-Men series, right? Like I never really like Uncanny X-Men's cool, and X-Force and all that, it's really cool, but like my favorite run of X-Men is got to be the Ultimate X-Men sagas. And those ones got really, really dark. So I'm just really curious, like how far Marvel's going to go with it. And that one was cool too, because Wolverine was not the main character in those, and oftentimes he wasn't invincible either. He was getting his butt kicked like a lot in those comic books. So I really hope they explore some of that.
All right.
I think it's important that they do that because of the simple fact that they have to, one, de-emphasize the importance of Wolverine, and then two, really help establish these other characters as main players. I mean, if we look back at just what X-Men 97 has done for Cyclops, just look at the first season, very first episode of what X-Men 97 did for Cyclops. That episode did more for Cyclops' screen persona than any of the movies did throughout the entire Fox universe. So it's going to be important that they really reestablish who the X-Men are outside of Wolverine, and then allow Wolverine to be an accompaniment, but not the focus of the X-Men moving forward. And as Josh mentioned, there were some dark stories, and if you look at just the baseline of what the X-Men are based on, mutant agenda or people not accepting people for being different, or for having powers that are extraordinary, or whatever the case may be. All those those plot points are already being kind of seeded out, with the Spider-Man movies and the other things. That you're already starting to see that seed of disownment, and that seed of people wanting to already have, for lack of a better term, prejudice towards these individuals. It's already kind of being sown and being shown that that's what it's going to be. So I'm definitely excited for what this X-Men universe is going to look like and what the Marvel universe is going to look like moving forward with this younger cast of X-Men and some of the storytelling that could happen. And they've already proven, Marvel's proven that they don't have a problem getting a little dark at times. So I- I'm excited for it. I'm cautiously optimistic because, again, the things that they've gone dark on have not necessarily been mainstay huge projects. X-Men is a big deal, so I'm hoping, as Josh mentioned, that they are willing to take some chances and get a little dark.
All right. So, with that said, my friend, it is, of course, the Pop Culture Cosmos, our 10-year anniversary. Thanks so again for joining us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It is, of course, Josh Pederson, the Revive one, and, of course, TJ Johnson, the guru of pop culture, right there for you. If you have any thoughts on D23, please let us know right here at popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. But, guys, before we head on out, I wanted to go ahead and touch on for the last close to half hour on stuff that we've talked about over the course of the past 10 years. And I want to talk about the biggest change in the industries as far as movies, television, and video games. And we'll start with movies, probably the easiest one of the three. Josh, I'll start with you. What is the biggest change over the past 10 years in the world of movies for you? Not getting into television yet, as far as, because I know where you want going to go with there, but movies, as far as that's concerned.
Like a change in how movies are made, or just in general about movies?
Yeah, just in general about the movie industry. Any one big change that you think has evolved since the time we've been doing this in 10 years?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously COVID changed quite a bit, right? As far as how people are consuming movies. That's triggered further things with like the slow disappearance of physical media and things, just, stories just disappearing. But I think it's now, I mean, we've seen this with like the Backrooms, right? Where their traditional filmmakers are like the new filmmakers coming up are not like traditional filmmakers, right? They're content creators. And, we've seen quite a few success stories there. So I would say that those are probably the two biggest things that are noticeable to me.
TJ, any thoughts from you as far as the big change in the movie industry over the past 10 years you've been consuming cinema?
I think Josh pretty much hit it on the head. I think obviously the hugest portion of that was COVID-19, and it really changed what people are willing to sit in a theater and breathe the same air as everybody for. If it's an option, if it's something that I can better enjoy at home on my couch, then I think I would do that. But there's certain things that are just must see in a movie theater type experiences, like Avengers Endgame or possibly even, Avengers Doomsday. The people are willing to do that, but it's very selective now. People are being using much more scrutiny in regards to what they're going to spend their hard-earned money on and seeing. And I think movie makers in general need to understand that. The problem with that is that it's, they only want to go with surefire hits now, and it's getting harder and harder to be independently thinking or creatively different than what everybody else is doing, and still drawing an audience that's willing to spend the money and risk on seeing your product. So it's going to be a very, very interesting time for movies and continue to move forward into the next decade.
When Josh and I started this show in 2016, we were still seeing an up ramp in the amount of money that the movie industry was making. And ultimately, Josh and I, in our years 2018, 2019, we were doing shows, and we did not realize that would be the golden years for the movie industry, as far as some of the biggest years ever, as far as the number of movies generating revenue. And little did we know, 2020 comes along, like you said, both you guys said, COVID was just such a factor as far as changing the landscape. And Josh had said at that time, as far as the involvement of how people consume media was changing, and it was changing because of the streaming industry. And so it's going into television now. And I'll start off again with Josh on this one. The streaming industry, revolutionized, changed, and forever modified the viewing habits of people worldwide. And you were on the cusp of that. You had said, I remember distinctly on on this show that about how the changes were going to be made. And in fact, I clipped it for commercials and whatnot, that how streaming was going to change the way we as human beings consume media. And the biggest change to television, it didn't ultimately kill the broadcast and cable outlets, but it certainly has put a hamper on it going forward. The big streaming booming era of the early 2020s. Now that streaming is now becoming a something more expensive than owning cable or buying, having cable. Maybe we'll see reversion back or something to that extreme. But right now, streaming has changed the ways in which we humans consume media. Absolutely. Those words that you said, I'm paraphrasing from when you said it, were definitely profound when you said it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could see when people were able, like during COVID, right? When people were able to sit on their couches and watch Tenet or Mortal Kombat, like these big movies that were meant to come out into theaters. They're like, oh, I could get used to this, And so even after COVID was done and movie theaters started to reopen, people still, the guys here was like, oh, we're still afraid to leave the house. But I don't think that was it, man. I think people just got so used to sitting on their couch and watching things from home. And it's really just this year, in my opinion, where we're finally seeing people go back to the movie theaters.
And when it comes to television and it's streaming, I mean, I'm wearing a streaming shirt as far as for one of the most popular shows ever on Apple TV, and all the entities that jumped into the streaming mix to try and grab your attention and your wallet. I think one, it has improved the quality of television because of the boundaries that streaming shows could go, even more so than what cable and broadcast TVs can go. It has broadened horizons for viewers, but in many ways have hurt them as well, TJ.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it's really showing us what money can really bring as far as content is concerned, right? But I think at the same time, it's hurt us in a lot of ways too, because we have very much more become focused on instant gratification. Why am I going to, when I can get an entire series worth of content out in one day, I can binge watch an entire series of the show You on Netflix. I can binge watch that in a day or two. I don't have that. When I have to wait for shows now, it really irritates me. Having to wait a week for a show, having to wait multiple days when I'm ready to watch the next episode right now really irritates me. And I blame Netflix and I blame streaming for that because I've been spoiled. I've absolutely been spoiled. And I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to waiting for episodes. I don't want to go back. The fact that I have to wait a week for Lioness to come out every Sunday really irritates my soul. I want more episodes available right now, and that's streaming's fault. So I think it's been a great thing because it really has shown what can be done. But I think it's got its hangups as well because people are again spending money even more so now on different streaming outlets between Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Stars. Show like there's so many different streaming apps, and it's hard to keep up with what show is on what app, and if I have to keep a subscription to this app, or now I have to manage which apps I'm going to do this month versus next month because this show comes back next month, and well, I don't necessarily need Stars, so I'm going to pull that down, but I definitely need to keep HBO, so I'm going to pull that up. Like there's a lot of juggling that has to happen now between all these different streaming platforms, and unfortunately we become so engrossed in that ecosystem that we can't seem to find a way to stop it. So streaming has been great, but it's also really kind of done exactly what cable was doing before we complained about cable, and now here we are complaining about streaming. So
You can never go home again, man.
Yeah.
you never go home again.
But
Once
it's like, well,
Pandora's box opened, there you go.
yeah, well, Gerald, it's like you're saying, like people are talking now about like going back to cable, but like you really can't go back because now like all the broadcasting rights for sports have been dispersed to the streaming platforms, and you have apps like Tubi and stuff that have like television on them. You could
But
watch
how many shows go directly to cable at this point?
very few.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, and broadcast television, when you watch it compared to a show like Severance, or to a show like Widow's Bay, or to a show like Game of Thrones, or to a show like House of the Dragon, or so many shows like Stranger Things, so many shows that have evolved on streaming over the course of years. It just seems like you just can't go back home again, because when I don't watch broadcast television anymore outside of a sporting event like you guys are talking about. There's nothing on it now that appeals to me in any way, shape, or form outside of maybe a very small select number of shows. And it's streaming has been a godsend and really a problem in all the same time, DJ.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I said it's a double-edged sword. It's been great because it's given us instant access to things that we want. I want more HBO. I'm going to go watch HBO. I want more stars. I'm going to go watch more stars. And that's great. That's amazing. But now, because as Josh mentioned, people aren't watching broadcast television anymore, so the distribution rights have to now start going elsewhere because they got to make their money too. I understand that. So now I'm going to send all my NBA shows to Amazon Prime, and I'm going to send WrestleMania to Peacock, and I'm going to send it to the ESPN app, and then I'm going to do all this different stuff. So now we, as a consumer, have to try to figure out a way to keep up with who's where and doing what and how. And again, this stuff isn't cheap. I mean, if you're looking at a general subscription is anywhere from $10 to $20, depending on the different tiers of things that you want, and sometimes even more than that if you're looking at Disney Plus. So it really, we as consumers of media have to be very, very careful about the way we consume media and then the trends that we're following. If you look back, I remember a commentator did a story about how when VC was becoming a thing in NBA 2K, and how people were starting to learn that they could pay to win. They're saying, okay, now you guys got to be careful because we're going to start coming into an age where that's all people are going to do is not pay to win. And then it's not going to be fun. And lo and behold, here we are, 5, 6, 7 years later, and virtual currency and pay to win has absolutely destroyed games like NBA 2K, has absolutely destroyed games like Madden, because it's not fun anymore. People are just buying their way to victories and buying their way to the best players and buying their way to all of that stuff. When they started, the microtransactions became a thing, and then it became the thing. So then now we started going digital, and now it's going to the point where they're ready to phase out physical media, and now everybody wants to be like, whoa, don't phase out my physical media. But
well, hold on, that's what we're going to talk about now, because now we're getting you're getting way ahead of us now. We're talking.
It fires me up, man.
It fires you up, and this is the last part of it. And Josh, I'm going to start with you. And what is the major change, which I think you probably already put out there already? What's the major change in video games over the past 10 years for us as consumers?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been
elephant in the room here. Sorry.
Quite a bit lately. No, I understand. And to TJ's point too, like it's not just like the NBA 2K games, right? It's the you could turn on Assassin's Creed now and like, oh, you want to buy a bunch of gold to get all the coolest stuff and just breeze through the game. Give us $10, man. Like GTA that's kind of 6. Been. Yeah, exactly. You pay when you're not paying to to win, you're paying to buy the stuff to win. So it's not it's they definitely found a way to make some extra money there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we all know, man, the cat's out of the bag that Sony wants to stop putting physical media out there, and I think that is not a great decision. Like, who would have thought, right, 10 years ago that in 10 years they're gonna be like, oh, we're just not gonna make physical games anymore. And that's bad, because it's bad for conservation efforts, right? And it's bad for sales, I would say, right? Because people have already figured out how to emulate PlayStation 5 stuff. So I mean, we're quickly sailing into uncharted territory. But like, even and it's funny because even Xbox is like, hey, we're still going to make physical games. But no, you don't. People don't sell your physical games. So why are you talking right now? But like it's a
like, you go sit in the corner. You sit in the corner. Nobody's talking to you.
Yeah. Why are you even here? But it's like Nintendo Switch too. Like very few of their games are actually on the cartridge. So I mean, I think this was like the plan all along, and it's probably has something to do with their bottom line. But still, man, it's like how do we control our own gaming library? Because they can just like take things away whenever they want. So I think we're seeing this with movies too. Like we're moving to a renter's economy, and that is something that like I won't go silently into.
Absolutely. Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, we can't go silent into that. And I think the problem comes from this idea of digital ownership, digital rights media, and being able to take what we have, what we've paid our hard-earned money for, and being able to just take it away from us at any given point in time. Now, I will say that I have not had a game that was physically taken from my digital library. However, I have games that are no longer usable that are in my digital library because they've inevitably cut off the servers to looking at things like Anthem. You pay full price for a game to be able to use that game in its perpetuity for as long as you're able to use it, right? Because when I buy a game, I want to be able to use the game when I want to use that game. If that means I want to use that game, today, if that means I want to use that game 5 years from now, if I want to pass those games, if I want to pass my digital library on to my kids, I want to be able to make sure that they can play those games from 10, 15 years ago. But because of the fact that technically we don't own any of the games that we've purchased, we just purchased a digital license to use said game. Um, we now are losing the ability to be able to be in control of what we want to play, when we want to play it, how we want to play it. Those days are going away. And to Josh's point, we can't continue to be quiet about this. Now, to pull Xbox back into the fold, right? I think what's interesting is what at least from what we're hearing, obviously, we have Gamescom coming out next week. So we'll have more of an indication of what they're hopefully physically hardware, what they're trying to do. But it sounds like they're looking at preserving the entire Xbox ecosystem by saying, hey, you can put your disc in, we'll create a digital whatever image of that, and you can use that and put a license with it. It'll go to your Xbox library, your digital library to be used, whenever the case may be. That sounds great, and I hope that that's truly what they're doing. I think they have a really unique opportunity to say, hey, we're trying to figure out a way to preserve this stuff for you because we know how much you put into these games, how much you put into this library. If I look at my ecosystem for my Xbox now, and look at how many games I have in that library. And obviously you take the Game Pass games out because those aren't games that we own, right? But if you look at between games with gold when it was a thing and now you're able to own those games, and then all the digital games that you've purchased over the course of the last blah, 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 blah years, my digital library is it's actually kind of disgusting. It's disgusting how many games I have on those consoles. But what I mean by that, the problem that we're going to run into is that when they decide that I don't want you to be able to have access to these 100 games, well, those are the games that I paid my money on. I should be able to play them whenever I want to. No different than when we would get cartridges or CDs or DVDs back in the day when we would go to Blockbusters or GameStop or wherever, or Happy Hoarders. We go to get our games and go to get our stuff, and then we'll be able to take that and pick up a physical game and go put it into my console and actually use it and play it right from the disc itself, as opposed to having everything be done. We're going into a time where it's already hard enough out there. And I think this is the problem that I'm really having with games. If I'm being all the way honest, the problem I have with games is they're phasing out gamers with video games. They're phasing out the people that were really going to enjoy the games. They're phasing out their pricing is out first and foremost with these consoles. I mean, obviously we understand the price of memory is going up and it's not going down anytime soon, but looking to spend anywhere from $800 to $1,000 on a console when I could just as easily go build a PC for maybe a little bit more, but get longer, get a little bit more versatility out of that PC. It's becoming harder to justify that purchase. So the pricing is out, and they're making it less convenient to be a gamer. And I think those two together are kind of big blows to the gaming industry as a whole. They're definitely not doing themselves any favors in that regard.
And again, as we continue on for the next 10 years or so, this definitely is going to continue to change even more how we consume media. Again, streaming, how much of a dominant factor will that continue to be? of course, the digital platform when it comes to video games and how increasingly dominant that will be, even more dominant in the next 10 years going forward as physical games start to phase their way even more out of our buying power, so to speak. And then, of course, movies. Will it ever approach again the same type of level of activity as it did in the height, the peak of the industry in the late 2010s? But guys, I cannot tell you enough how great of an episode it has been. 10 years of the Pop Culture Cosmos. I am so grateful to you both for the time that you've spent with us on this podcast over the course, especially you, Josh, 10 years, TJ, 3 years, I think, going on right now. So yeah, absolutely. You guys have spent so much great time with us. A big shout out also as well to my wrestling colleagues, the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing in the Early Years, and John Orlando, who I do the State of Pro Wrestling with on this show occasionally as well. Give a big shout out. And again, a big shout out to you, the listener, you, the viewer, and everybody that's out there, the radio stations that have carried us all these years. Sword Radio, I saw you downloading our episodes from last week. You've been doing it for so many years. I cannot thank you enough. I think you were one of the first that we ever got. And obviously you've been with us through thick and thin. So I'm truly grateful to you for your support and all the other radio stations that have been a great part of it. But I'm going to leave the last words with you guys. Well, actually, I'll have the last words, but little tiny little thing like outro I've been doing for 10 years. But Josh, any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yeah, I don't know if y'all have seen what was posted today with Crunchyroll. I forgot about this, but they have removed all physical manga, light novels, manhwa, and a giant portion of their physical DVDs and Blu-rays from their store. So I mean, it's happening, man.
It's happening indeed. TJ, again, great to have you here, hopping on for a special episode. 10 years of the Pop Culture Cosmos. Any last thoughts from you, my friend, before we head on out?
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We are going to live on. We are going to survive. Today is not Independence Day, but the point of that movie is that we have to persevere. We have to find a way to continue to fight for what we want, especially if we want our voices heard. This is not the time to be silent. This is the time to speak up and actually let your dollars speak. Let your dollars speak to these corporations. That's the only language they know. We've got to do better, guys.
So for TJ Johnson and Josh Pederson, it's me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening for all these great 10 years. It has been truly an honor and a pleasure bringing you the latest in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts on and radio stations worldwide. So truly cannot thank you enough for doing so. Please make sure, in honor of the 10 years that we've been doing this, please give a like, a subscribe, and also as well a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. So for Josh Pederson, TJ Johnson, it's me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.
Welcome to the Pop Culture Cosmos.